Thank you. I now recognize myself. Ms. Archuleta, you have personally identifiable information for how many federal employees and retirees?
We have
Move your microphone closer, please.
we have 2.7 individuals who are full-time employees and 2.4
No,
are.
I asked you how many, you have personal identifiable information for how many federal employees and retirees?
The number I just gave you includes the number of employees and retirees, and personally identifiable information within those files depends on whether they've had a background investigation or whether they're personnel file.
How many records do you have? This is what I'm trying to get at.
I'll ask Ms. Seymour.
No, I want you, come on, you're the head of this agency. I'm asking you, how many records are at play here?
I'll get back to you with that number.
No. Let me read to you what you wrote on February 2nd of this year. This is to the Appropriations Chairman, both in the House and the Senate. You wrote, as a proprietor of sensitive data, including personal identifiable information for 32 million federal employees and retirees, OPM has an obligation to maintain contemporary and robust cybersecurity controls. You wrote that in February. Are you here to tell me that that information is all safe, or is it potentially 32 million records that are at play here?
As I mentioned to you earlier in my testimony, Mr. Chairman, we're reviewing the number and the scope of the breach and the impact to
so it could be
all
as,
of the
it could be as high as 32 million. Is that right?
I mentioned to you I will not give a number that is not completely accurate, and as I mentioned in my testimony today,
I'm asking you for a range. I don't need a
as soon as
specific
that.
number. We know it's a minimum of 4.2 million, but it could be as high as 32 million.
I'm not going to give you a number that I am not sure of.
And when they fill out the SF-86, that would include other people that are identified within those forms, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Do we know on average how many people are identified? If you fill out an SF-86, what's the average number of people that are identified within those records?
I don't believe anyone has calculated an average.
Are you working on that?
Take a look. As I mentioned in my testimony, my team.
I'm asking you if you will take a sampling of records and understand how many other people are identified in those records. If you have 32 million employees and former employees in your database, and they are also identifying other individuals, I would like to know, on average, how many people that is. Is that fair?
We're not calculating on average. We're calculating on a very distinct and accurate number. We're not going to
and the
make
distinct
estimates.
and accurate number, when you asked for $32 million more in your budget request, it was because you had 32 million federal employees identified and former employees, correct?
That the number of employees that we have, yes.
In your
asking
database.
for support. We're asking for support for our cybersecurity efforts.
Ms. Seymour?
Yes.
Do you have a complete inventory of servers, database, network devices, and people that have access to that information? Do you have the complete inventory of that?
We have as complete an inventory as we can have, sir. That changes on a daily basis. We have run scans on our network.
Changes on a daily basis. You either have it or you don't. You don't have it, do you?
We have an inventory
Is it
of all of our
complete,
systems.
100% complete?
We believe that it is complete today.
But the IG says that it's not complete. Mr. McFarland says that it's not complete.
His IG report was done in 2014. We've made significant progress in our IT program since then. We have tools on our network that scan our network for databases, so we know where those are and we know the PII in them.
To my members of the committee here, we have to move quickly, but I think that just having an inventory of what's at play here is key, and the Inspector General does not believe you when you say that. Ms. Archuleta, in March of 2014, OPM became aware of an attack on its computer networks. I would highlight, I'll ask unanimous consent to enter into the record without objections ordered, a Chinese hackers pursue key data on U.S. workers. This is dated July 9th of 2014. As it relates to this attack, Ms. Archuleta, did it result in a breach of security? Your microphone.
On the March 2014 OPM network, the adversary activity, the data to that number was no PII was lost.
I asked if there was a breach in security.
On March 24th, there was adversarial activity that dated back to November of 2013, and with the forensics of that information, we found that no PII was lost.
I'm asking you a broader question. So did they have access to the PII? The personal identification information? Did they have access to it?
You would have to ask the forensic teams. I'm not a forensic expert, but we have the forensic team right here with us on this panel.
In your perception, from your understanding, did they have access to the personnel information?
We know that there is adversarial activity that dated back to November 2013. I also know that no PII was lost.
No, that's a different question. The question I asked is, did they have access? Whether they exfiltrated it is a different question. I'm asking if they had access, and I believe the answer is yes, isn't it?
And that's what I've said to you, sir, that there was adversarial activity.
So they had access to that information?
There was adversarial access.
Yes.
Activity.
Did it result in a breach of security, in your opinion? Is that a breach of security?
That's a breach of our systems, yes.
Is that a breach of your security?
With the security systems, yes.
So yes, it was a breach of security, yes?
They were able to enter our systems. The security tools that we had in place at that time were not sufficient to fight back, and we have since instituted more. And that is why in April of this year, we were able to
Okay, but at the time, it was a breach of security, right?
Yes, there was a breach into our system.
Was there any information lost?
As I've just said to you, there was
No,
no PII lost.
That's not what I asked you. I asked, did you lose any information?
You would have to ask the forensic team.
I'm asking you if any information was lost.
I'll get back to you with that answer, sir.
I believe you know the answer to this question.
You believe I know the answer to that
Yes.
question?
Did they take any information when they hacked into the computers?
I have been advised by my CIO and our forensic team that no PII was.
No, that's not what I asked you. We'll take as long as you want here.
I'm sorry.
I did not ask if they just exfiltrated PII. I'm asking you, did they take any other information?
I will get back to you.
I know you know the answer to this question. Ms. Seymour, did they take any other information?
In the March 2014 incident, the adversaries did not have access to data on our network. They did have access to some documents, and they did take some documents from the network.
What were those documents?
Those documents were some outdated security documents about our systems and some manuals about our systems.
What kind of manuals?
Manuals about the servers and the environment.
Is it fair to say, is that like a blueprint for the system?
It would be fair to say that that would give you enough information that you could learn about the platform, the infrastructure of our system, yes.
Did they take any personnel manuals?
No, sir, they did not take. They took some manuals about the way that we do business. They didn't take personnel manuals. We may be not defining that the same way.
But they did take information.
Yes, sir, they did.
Do you believe it was a breach of security?
Yes, sir, I do.
So, Ms. Archuleta, when we rewind the tape and look at the WJLA TV interview that you did on July 21st, you said, again, we did not have a breach in security. There was no information that was lost. That was false, wasn't it?
I was referring to PII.
No, you weren't. That wasn't the question. That was not the question. You said, and I quote, there was no information that was lost. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
The understanding that I had of that question at that time referred to PII.
It was misleading, it was a lie, and it wasn't true. And when this plays out, we're going to find that this was the step that allowed them to come back and why we're in this mess today. It was not dealt with. You were misleading when you went on television and told all the employees, all these federal employees watching local television, don't worry, there's no information lost. Did they have access to personnel information, Ms. Seymour?
No, sir. At that time, they did not have access to personnel information.
They may not have exfiltrated it, but did they have access to it? Could they look at it?
No, sir. At that time, they did not have access to personnel information.
We will explore that more. Thank the indulgence of the committee. Now recognize Mr. Cummings.